Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review for the BenQ GL2706PQ. Now before getting to the specs, let's talk about price. It can be found for £255 on Amazon.co.uk and $300 on Amazon USA. In terms of specs, it's a 27-inch 16:9 aspect ratio monitor that runs at 2560 x 1440p. Now this monitor has a TN panel, thus how it's a much more affordable 1440p monitor. It has a quoted response time of 1 millisecond, which I'll get into in a little bit. It also runs at 60 Hz. In terms of inputs, it has a display port and HDMI, which you can utilize, and it's also got inbuilt speakers. Now the inbuilt speakers are pretty poor, just useful for Windows notifications. If you're going to play any music on it, I think you will not enjoy it at all. Also, I should say that it's got a VESA mount, so if you want to mount it to a different stand, you can do so. Speaking about a stand, how is it? Now the stand itself is actually very sturdy and it's really useful. First of all, you can pivot very easily, you can height adjust, tilt and fully rotate. I love the fact that they've given full adjustments, especially at this price range for a 1440p monitor. Now in terms of the actual build quality of the monitor, there's nothing too much to say about it. It looks like a relatively cheap monitor, and in all honesty it is. It's got a plastic stand with bezels which aren't overly inspiring, but on the plus side they're not too distracting in terms of being too big or too thick in any sort of way. It's just a black finish on a black plastic finish, and that's about it. Now in terms of the OSD of the monitor, I'm not very impressed, and that's mainly due to the fact of the buttons. Now if I just zoom in over here at the bottom, you guys will be able to see the OSD, and just reduce the EV as well of my camera so it gives you a little bit more accurate reproduction. Now the buttons over here, none of them are labeled, so it's pretty much like a little bit of a guesswork. But you can see over here the OSD. Now the OSD looks like it looks like a blue screen or an old school BIOS, but it gives you the appropriate controls. It's just a real pain to get around it. Now in terms of luminance, I've got 100 and a contrast 80, which is the default. Within the color setup, which you can see is a little bit annoying to get to, I've got a user preset. I've got red as 96, G as 99 and B as 100. That is what I found to be the best, just by from my own calibration of my eyes. Other than that, you can recall, and in MISC you've got different options as well. DP format as 1.2, opening, logo on and off, overdrive, which I'll get into in just a bit, advanced contrast, and DDC and CI, which you can turn on or off. Other than that, you've got the audio controls, which are useful if you like to listen to terrible audio through the monitor. So the OSD is pretty simple. It's very easy to use. As in easy to use, it's very easy to understand. But in terms of the actual using of it, I find it a little bit hard, given the fact that the buttons are really poorly, not poorly placed, but poorly labeled. So I wish that BenQ would just pay a little bit more attention to that, because it does add to the overall experience that you'd have. Now let's talk about its panel quality. Now it's a TN panel. Does that mean it's any good or bad? So first of all, the TN panel is washed out. The colors are not accurate, and unfortunately they just look a little bit off. Even with a little bit of like user calibration, as you saw there, I still found the colors to be off. They seem to be overly saturated in some respects, and just poorly represented in others. Going through different sort of images, for example this image, you'd expect a nice deep blue sea over here. When you're getting a more lightish blue over here, you expect dark blue skies. In essence, you're getting kind of like a mid-ground towards it. In here you should be getting a nice sort of contrast ratio between the sky and the Statue of Liberty. Unfortunately, that's not the case due to the TN panel being unable to really reproduce good contrast ratios in comparison to IPS, PLS or VA panels, and therefore you kind of get like a muddled image with this panel. So if you're looking to do photo editing or video editing, this will not be the monitor for you. If you're looking for a monitor that's going to be pleasant for movies and games, unfortunately again this is not going to be a monitor for you. If, however, you're looking for a cheap 1440p monitor and you're not too fussy about the colors or the accurate reproduction of it, then of course this won't be a problem. The colors aren't overly bad, but just do bear in mind my comments of what I said. And if you're looking for something for movies and games, or just say even movies or just watching YouTube, then you'd probably want to opt for a PLS or IPS panel, which might cost a little bit more, but will give you a lot better and much more accurate color reproduction. In terms of viewing angles, I had no sort of problems of viewing angles. I didn't see a color shift in any way. There is a slight loss of color, but it's very slight. And again, as always, as I say, you're probably going to be sitting down straight away, looking at the monitor rather than changing angles left and right. Now let's talk about its gaming performance. Now it's a 60 Hz panel. I haven't tried overclocking it because my Windows didn't pick up the drivers properly, so it's just kind of generic monitor, so it comes at 60 Hz. Now that's the advertised 60 Hz, and in all honesty, for casual gaming this won't be a problem. If you're looking to play competitively on it and fail miserably while you're trying to showcase Counter-Strike, even though you're a global player, then then you'll find that this monitor is really not suited for you. Now you might be saying, why have they quoted a 1 millisecond G2G overdrive? Well, why they've quoted a 1 milliseconds G2G response time. It's because if you ramp up overdrive to 3, you'll get a much more responsive monitor, but as you might be able to see over here, there's a lot of inverse ghosting. It's so noticeable that I wouldn't even want to play at all a single minute on it. It's so bad. You probably can see it through the camera even. There's ghosting, inverse ghosting happening all over the place, and it just looks horrendous. So you can't really use it on this mode despite it being the most responsive mode. Even then, its input lag isn't the best, so that doesn't add to the response time, but it does add to the experience of your eyes and your own feel of the monitor. The response time combined with the input lag makes it feel like a non-competitive monitor. Therefore, I would suggest using overdrive setting on number 2, which is the kind of the mid-ground of what I found. It's like a medium overdrive setting, and in this respect, I was much more impressed with its performance. There's obviously response time does take a hit from number 2 to 3 overdrive settings. However, you don't get any of this unwanted inverse ghosting. There is minimal inverse ghosting still present, but again, it's minimal versus the extreme amount of inverse ghosting you get at overdrive 3. So if you're going to be using this using this for casual gaming, then use it on overdrive 2 setting, and it is acceptable for casual gaming, but that's about it. So what are my thoughts about the monitor? Well, it's a decent monitor. It's nothing to be excited about. Looking at the market, you can find other TN panels which have an accurate, similar color reproduction and similar game performance as this for about £50 cheaper, and I would highly suggest those at the same resolution. If not, I would suggest investing just a little bit more if you want better colors for a proper 1440p monitor that is non-gaming centric but has fantastic colors for your movies or your Facebook browsing or whatever it might be. That will way outweigh the TN panel that you've got over here. So this is kind of stuck in the mid-ground. The TN panel is better for gaming, but it's only a 60 Hz panel. And yet its 1440p resolution is great for movie watching at a higher resolution, but at the same time its TN panel lets it down in terms of color reproduction. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's not a monitor I'd really recommend, but it is a one of the cheaper 1440p monitors you can find out there with a fully adjustable stand. Right guys, there we go. That is my video review of it, my honest thoughts and opinions. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any sort of questions or your thoughts and opinions about this market. And also make sure you like, comment, subscribe, favorite and share, as it always helps. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye bye.